And welcome to India Tonight. Right on top of the show, we have news coming through, and this is the information we are gleaning from our sources that the NSE has decided to file for an IPO, no objection certificate, with the markets regulator SEBI. This was decided in a meeting that was held on Tuesday, today, and the NSE is to make a fresh attempt now for its IPO. They will move an application filing a no objection certificate on their IPO. Let's find out more about what the plan is. Nikunj Dalmia, editor-in-chief of ET Now and ET Now Swadesh, joining us on the phone line. Nikunj, what do we know about this at this point, about NSE's plans?
Hi, Vikram. So what we know is that NSE in its board meeting has decided to apply to SEBI an NOC, which is a no objection certificate, that, we want to revisit the IPO. Now, when NSE is applying for a NOC to SEBI, and SEBI in the past has raised some concerns which were in a sense becoming a roadblock for NSE's IPO, the Board of National Stock Exchange, I'm sure, certainly feels that all those connections, all those concerns now have been duly addressed, and NSE as an organization and as a board, they have taken cognizance of all the concerns which the regulator has flagged off. So with that confidence, I think they are applying for a NOC. The process, I think, is still very clear. SEBI will take its time to examine why NSE has applied for an NOC. They perhaps would like to revisit the initial thesis as to why the NSE issue never got the clearance. And if that criteria is satisfactorily met, then SEBI may just take a favorable view on the NSE IPO. Having said that, this is not a clean chit. This is not a go-ahead. This is NSE's board decision that they would be going to SEBI. But whenever the issue comes, then looks like the deck could get clear sooner than later, if I'm trying to read in between lines here. NSE IPO perhaps would be a mega IPO at a global level. They have 90% plus market share in the derivative market. They have an annual profit which is of 2,400 crores plus. They have a dominant market share in all the categories of equity market. Also, NSE Vikram is one of the most respectable exchange in the world now, both in terms of size and also in terms of reach. So I put all those things into context here. This really could be, next couple of months really could be very exciting from NSE standpoint and from an investor standpoint, given that NSE IPO is one of the most anticipated IPO in Indian capital markets. Vikram?
Nikunj, I remember it was perhaps in June 2022, if I remember correctly, that NSE was seeking approval for their listing, and SEBI responded with all these concerns that you alluded to. It was about their technology, about governance, surveillance, lapses in their role as a first-level regulator. So are we to understand, like you said, it's not a clean chit, but are we to understand that those concerns that SEBI have been addressed now that NSE is going ahead with this?
Well, let's understand in last 3 years what has happened. NSE has gone through some corporate governance issues. There were some concerns which they really had to fix at the board level. But after Mr. Chauhan, after he took over as the CEO of NSE National Stock Exchange, he has hit the ground running, and he's really managed to turn the ship, perhaps fix all the issues, both in terms of governance and also in terms of technology and also in terms of, a couple of periodic technical failures they've had. So I think full credit goes to the board and Mr. Chauhan for really hitting the ground running. Now, if a board of National Stock Exchange perhaps is of the view that we are in a position to perhaps file the NOC to the regulator, and I'm sure they're already aware of the concerns which the regulator had flagged off, the fact that they're applying for an NOC, I'm sure they feel out, they are confident or they are certain that the concerns which are raised by the regulator, they fully have been addressed, or they feel that they are in control of what the situation was versus what they currently are in. So I think it is pure confidence, action, and perhaps credit to the team and Mr. Chauhan, which in a sense is a clear indication that they feel that NSE is now IPO ready. Vikram?
Nikunj, many thanks for putting that in context for our viewers at this time. This is news just coming in that NSE is seeking the SEBI no objection certificate to go ahead with their IPO, which has been long delayed. Let's also get perspective on this from Sandeep Parekh, the managing partner at FinSec Law Advisors. Mr. Parekh, good to have you join us on this news. As far as your understanding of this long-standing IPO of NSE is concerned, now that we are seeing them go ahead with that no objection certificate from SEBI, what do you make of it? How ready are they now with this IPO in your understanding, Mr. Parekh?
I guess they've been ready for some time. So I guess it should happen fast if SEBI gives its word. I think there were certain issues which I think for some reason SEBI was not happy with the disclosure-based because they wanted, closure to some of the pending cases which SEBI, which NSE had ongoing. Hopefully, that's an old chapter now, and SEBI does indeed give a go ahead. And I think it'll be good to have an exchange which is listed because the other two competitor exchanges are already listed. So I think it'll be good to have the transparency and the liquidity in NSE.
Mr. Parekh, since you did mention the competitive landscape that exists, you did mention the two other exchanges that are over there. How do you think NSE is going to fare now that there has been a delay on account of the reasons that SEBI had? There were concerns on several counts. Those seem to have been allayed now that they are going ahead. So, if that is behind us, what does the future look like for the exchanges that will be listed in the future on our exchanges?
So I think the future is good because, ultimately, if the exchange is listed, there is more liquidity, automatically the cost of capital goes down. So it's not in need of immediate capital, but, it's always good to have access to the capital markets. And again, I think it's also an important signal for an exchange because, if you're telling the entire world that please list, it's odd for you not to list yourself. So I think it is good from that perspective as well.
Thank you very much for joining us. It has been a pleasure talking to you about this subject, and of course we'll delve into it deeper as we get more confirmation and more news trickling in about the details of this IPO plan that NSE has been working on for a while. Meanwhile, we are...
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.